My wife cheated on me with her best friend's husband. Then they embezzled $250, $0 from our joint account, and now she's trying to take everything, including our family home worth $500, $0, in a bitter court battle I never saw coming. I never imagined that a typical Sunday afternoon would turn my life upside down in the way it did. I was sitting in the living room scrolling through my phone when I noticed something strange, an email alert from our joint bank account. It was a transfer of $50, $0 to an account I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was some kind of mistake or maybe a business deal my wife, Amanda, had mentioned. But then I remembered she'd been acting weird lately, distant, distracted, snapping at me over small things. I brushed it off as stress, but that email gnawed at me. Later that evening, I decided to look into it more. I pulled up the bank statements and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were multiple transfers, small ones, then suddenly, a huge one for $200, $0. I couldn't believe it. Who transfers that kind of money without telling their spouse? I checked the details, names, accounts, and the trail led straight to Amanda's best friend, Lisa, and her husband, Mark. That's when the pieces started falling into place. The late-night phone calls, the strange absences, her secretive behavior. It all made sense now. I remembered how she'd been sneaking around with her phone, deleting messages, acting evasive when I asked questions. The worst part was the way she'd lied to me over and over. She said she was working late, meeting friends, going to yoga, anything but the truth. I knew something was off, but I never suspected it was this deep. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial too. They embezzled $250,000 from us. Our savings, our plans for the house, everything I'd worked so hard for gone. I felt numb, like everything I believed in had shattered in an instant. The trust I had in Amanda was gone, replaced by a seething rage. I couldn't sleep that night, replaying everything I'd learned. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? How could she betray me, cheat on me with her best friend's husband, and then steal from us? It felt like my whole life was a lie. I thought about confronting her, but I knew I had to be careful. I didn't want to tip her off before I had all the evidence. I needed a plan, a way to get through this without losing my mind. The next day, I started digging deeper. I contacted the bank, got copies of all the transactions, and looked into Lisa and Mark's financials. It was clear they'd been planning this for a while. I also found messages on Amanda's phone, flirty texts, suggestive pictures, all exchanged with Mark. She lied to me about everything, claiming she was just friends with Lisa, that nothing was going on. But the evidence said otherwise. She'd been lying to my face for months. I was furious, but beneath that anger was a deep sadness. I'd married Amanda because I thought she was the one, someone I could trust with everything. Turns out I was wrong. The woman I loved had been cheating, stealing, and lying right under my nose. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and helpless. I didn't know what to do at first, but I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to find a way to fight back, to get justice, not just for me, but for everything we'd built together. That night I sat alone in the dark, trying to process it all. I knew this was only the beginning. The real storm was coming, and I had to be ready. I couldn't let her walk away with everything, our home, our life savings, our future. I had to plan carefully, quietly, and without giving her any hint that I knew. Because once she realized I knew, everything could explode. And I wasn't sure I was ready for what would come next. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I was walking through fog. My mind kept circling back to everything I'd uncovered. The money, her lies, Lisa and Mark. How deep did this go? I knew I had to act fast but carefully. I couldn't just confront her without proof or a plan. The last thing I wanted was to give her a chance to cover her tracks or spin some bullshit story to save herself. First, I decided to check her phone. I knew it was risky, but I needed to see if she'd left any clues behind, any messages or calls that could confirm her involvement. I grabbed her phone while she was still asleep. She always left it next to her pillow, like she wanted me to see it. I unlocked it easily. She was careless that way. I started combing through her messages, photos, call logs, and what I found was worse than I expected. There were dozens of messages exchanged with Mark, flirty texts, suggestive photos, plans to meet up. Some of the messages were outright sexual. I saw her talking about how she wanted him and how she couldn't resist. It was all there. But what hit me hardest was a message from her, timestamped just a few days before I found the bank transfer. "I'm so sorry, babe. I'll make it right. Just trust me." That was her way of covering her tracks, trying to convince herself she could get away with it. It made me feel sick. I also found deleted messages. She'd been trying to erase the evidence, but I'd already seen enough. I took screenshots, downloaded everything, and then quietly put her phone back where I found it. I knew I had to be smart about this. I didn't want to tip her off until I had all the facts lined up. Later that day, I set up a hidden recorder in the living room, something I'd read about online. If she was planning to talk to Lisa or Mark about the money or anything else, I wanted to catch it firsthand. I also contacted a lawyer just to get a sense of my options. I told him everything, holding back nothing. He advised me to keep all evidence, avoid confrontations, and prepare for a possible legal battle. It was a lot to process, but I knew I had to stay calm. That evening, Amanda came home late, smelling of perfume and anger. She was bitchy, snapping at me over every little thing. I played it cool, but inside I was boiling. She started lying again, claiming she was at yoga, that she was just stressed from work. I didn't buy it. I knew she was hiding something, but I didn't push her yet. Instead, I watched her closely, trying to gauge her next move. Over dinner, she got defensive when I asked about her recent absences. She said I was overreacting, that I was paranoid. She even accused me of spying on her, which I didn't deny. Honestly, I was just trying to figure out how far she'd go. I could see the bitchy side of her emerging. She was trying to gaslight me, make me feel guilty for suspecting her. It was classic Amanda, blame shifting and denial. But I wasn't going to let her turn this around on me. I'd already seen too much. I knew the truth. The more she lied, the more convinced I was that I needed to act fast. I couldn't keep living in this fog of betrayal. I was angry, hurt, and disappointed, but I also knew I had to be strategic. I couldn't let her manipulate me or make me the villain in her twisted game. That night I lay awake again, planning my next move. I knew I'd have to confront her eventually, but not yet. I needed more evidence, more time to get everything in order. I also realized I had to think about how I was going to approach her, what I'd say, how I'd say it. I was furious, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't going to let her ruin me, not without a fight. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it. I just hoped I'd come out of this with some shred of dignity intact. Over the next few days, I kept digging. I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to slip up again. I had to be proactive. I set up a few more discreet surveillance measures, checked the bank accounts daily, and kept a close eye on her schedule. Every time she left the house, I followed her, just to see where she was going. It was exhausting, but I needed to know exactly how deep her lies went. One afternoon, I decided to confront her directly, but on my terms. I called her into the living room, trying to sound calm, even though inside I was raging. She looked annoyed but played the innocent victim card. "What's this about? Why are you acting so paranoid?" I looked her straight in the eyes and laid out the evidence I had gathered. The text messages, the bank transfers, the deleted emails. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark, about the embezzlement, and about how she'd been lying to me for months. Her reaction was a mix of anger, denial, and outright hostility. She rolled her eyes, scoffed, and said, "You're crazy. You're just jealous. Mark and I are just friends. The money, it's all a mistake. You're misinterpreting everything." She insisted she loved me, that it was all a misunderstanding, and that I was overreacting. Her tone was bitchy, dismissive, like I was some paranoid fool who couldn't see the truth. I didn't buy her bullshit. I pressed harder, telling her I knew she'd been cheating and stealing from us. She snapped back, "You think I'm some kind of monster? I've been under a lot of stress, okay? Maybe I made some bad choices, but I'm still your wife. We can fix this." That was her way of trying to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty, to make me doubt what I knew, but I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her I was done with the lies, that I'd been gathering enough evidence, and that I was going to take legal action if she didn't come clean. She looked furious, her face contorted with rage and contempt. She spat, "You're just trying to control me. You're not the man I married." That was the moment I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. She was trying to turn everything around, paint herself as the victim, but I knew the truth. She'd betrayed me, lied, and stolen from us. I felt a strange mixture of heartbreak and rage. I'd loved her once, but now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish bitch. After she stormed out of the room, I sat alone, trying to process what had just happened. I knew the fight wasn't over, not even close. I needed to get everything in writing, get a lawyer involved, and prepare for what was coming next. I was already thinking about how to protect my rights, how to ensure she didn't take everything, our house, our savings, our future. That night I stayed awake again, replaying the confrontation in my mind. Every word, every lie, every sneer. I felt a deep sense of betrayal, but also a strange clarity. I'd been blind before, but now I saw clearly. I wasn't just fighting for my money or my house. I was fighting to reclaim my life from someone I thought I knew. I knew I had to be cautious, strategic, and patient. I couldn't let her see how much she'd hurt me, but I also could let her get away with it. I started drafting a timeline of everything I knew, every lie she told, every financial transaction. I needed to have it all organized for the lawyer. I knew this was only the beginning and that the real battle was still ahead. But I was determined. I wouldn't let her destroy me, not without a fight. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it head on. The days that followed were a blur of planning and trying to keep my composure. I couldn't let Amanda see how much I was unraveling inside. Every time she left the house, I was on high alert, checking bank accounts, reading through every message and email I could find. I also started secretly recording her whenever she was home, just in case she said something incriminating or slipped up. I knew I had to gather as much concrete evidence as possible before making my next move. One thing I realized early on was that Amanda's pride was her weakness. She was bitchy, manipulative, and always trying to spin her lies into some kind of victim story. But beneath that, I saw her cracks. She was scared, angry, and desperate too. Keep everything she'd taken from me, our money, our house, our reputation. I couldn't believe she was willing to burn everything down just to get what she wanted. That weekend, I decided to test her. I left my phone at home and went out for a few hours. When I returned, I found her on her phone, texting someone. I snuck a glance and saw her typing, "We can't keep hiding this. He's onto us." My stomach clenched. She was talking about me, about how I was closing in. That confirmed what I'd suspected. She was planning her next move, probably trying to cover her tracks even more. Later that evening, she confronted me about being paranoid, saying I was reading too much into things. She had that typical dismissive tone, like I was some crazy ex-boyfriend. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I knew about her affair, about the money, and about her lies. Her face twisted with rage and she spat. "You're just jealous because Mark and I have something you'll never understand. You're insecure and you're just trying to ruin my life." That was the moment I realized she was fully committed to gaslighting me. She was trying to make me doubt myself, to turn the tables and make me look like the bad guy, but I had enough evidence now. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots of her texts and the bank statements. Her eyes widened for a second, then she turned furious. "You think you can scare me with your little recordings and screenshots? You're just a jealous, insecure loser," she sneered. "You're going to regret this. I'll take everything, our house, our savings, everything we built, and you'll be left with nothing." Her voice was venomous, and I could see the true bitch behind her mask. She was desperate to hold onto her lies, her affair, her stolen money. I knew I couldn't keep living like this, walking on eggshells, waiting for her next move. I had to act decisively. I told her I was going to see a lawyer, that I'd be filing for divorce and seeking full custody of the house. Her face twisted in rage and she yelled, "You'll never get a penny. I'll make sure you regret this for the rest of your life." She stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her, leaving me alone with my thoughts. That night, I sat in the dark, feeling a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief that I'd finally confronted her, that I had proof. Dread because I knew this was going to get uglier before it got better. I thought about all the times I'd trusted her, all the plans we'd made, and how she'd thrown it all away for some stupid affair and greed. I also started to realize that I had to prepare myself for the legal battle ahead. She was going to fight me tooth and nail to keep the house, the money, and whatever else she could get her hands on. I reached out to a lawyer the next morning, laying out everything I knew. He told me to keep detailed records, avoid any direct confrontations, and start gathering financial documents. I also started thinking about how to protect my own interests, separating our joint accounts, changing passwords, and making sure I wasn't leaving any loose ends. I felt exhausted but determined. I knew Amanda wasn't going to go quietly. She was manipulative, bitchy, and driven by greed. But I was done playing her game. I would fight for what was rightfully mine: the house, our savings, my dignity. I had no idea what the future held, but I knew I couldn't let her win. Not this time. I had to stay strong, stay focused, and be ready for whatever came next. The legal process moved faster than I expected. I scheduled a consultation with a divorce attorney and laid everything out: her affair, the stolen money, her attempts to manipulate and gaslight me. The lawyer was cold but professional, and he told me I had a solid case, especially with the evidence I'd collected. We drafted a plan to freeze joint accounts, secure the house, and ensure she couldn't drain any more money. I knew I had to act quickly. Amanda was already talking about going to court to take everything she could, including the house worth $500,000. Throughout this, she remained her bitchy, manipulative self. She accused me of trying to ruin her, of being jealous, and constantly played the victim, claiming I was crazy for suspecting her. She threw tantrums, yelled, and even tried to guilt me into dropping everything. "You're just jealous because I still look good." She snapped one day. "You're a loser and nobody's going to want you after this." I could see her desperation, her need to control the narrative to make herself the innocent victim, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew the truth. One of the most shocking moments came when she tried to turn our own daughter against me. She told her I was abusive and controlling, trying to make her think I was the villain. That was the last straw. I sat her down and explained calmly that I loved her and that her mother was lying. It broke my heart to see her confused, but I knew I had to protect her from her mother's lies. I secretly recorded some of her accusations, knowing I'd need that evidence in court. Meanwhile, Amanda's behavior grew more erratic. She hired a lawyer of her own, and I could tell she was trying to intimidate me. She sent threatening emails, claiming she'd fight for everything and ruin me if she had to. She even tried to manipulate mutual friends and family members, painting herself as the wronged wife. But I kept my focus on the facts. I was determined to take everything she was trying to steal: our home, our savings, our peace of mind. The court date was set for a few weeks later. I spent those weeks preparing everything: more evidence, financial statements, witness statements from friends who knew about her affair. I knew she'd do everything to spin the story to make me look like the bad guy. But I was ready. I had nothing to hide, and I knew I'd stand my ground. I also started to realize how much this entire ordeal had changed me. I was hurt, angry, betrayed, but I was also stronger than I thought I had to be. When the day finally arrived, I felt a mixture of anxiety and relief. I sat in the courtroom, watching her try to look confident but failing to hide her desperation. Her lawyer argued, but I had everything lined up. The evidence was undeniable. The judge listened carefully, and in the end, I got a court order to freeze her access to the house and the remaining funds. She was furious, screaming and crying, but I stayed calm. I knew this wasn't over, but at least I had taken a crucial step toward reclaiming what was mine. As I left the courthouse that day, I felt a strange sense of closure. I had fought for my rights, for my dignity, and for the future I deserved. Amanda's bitchy, manipulative side had been exposed and the truth was out. I knew she'd keep trying to spin her lies, but I also knew I had the evidence to back me up. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, but I also felt a flicker of hope. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of my new life, one where I could finally start healing from the betrayal and rebuild what she'd tried to destroy. In the aftermath of everything, I've learned more than I ever thought I would about trust, betrayal, and the resilience of a man who thought he had it all figured out. The court battle drained me, emotionally, financially, and mentally. Amanda kept fighting, trying to manipulate the situation, spinning tailies that painted her as the victim, but I had the evidence, and I made damn sure the truth came out. The judge saw through her lies and I got the house, our family home, secured in my name. It was worth more than $500,000 and I knew I had to hold on to it, not just for the property's value but as a symbol of the life I was trying to rebuild. The money she embezzled, $250,000, was a blow I'd never fully recover from, but I wasn't about to let her walk away with everything. I filed for divorce and in the end she got a fraction of what she wanted. She was furious, throwing one last fit in court, screaming about how she'd ruined me, but I didn't care anymore. The damage was done, and I had already started moving forward. I hired a financial advisor to help me piece my life back together, and slowly I began the process of healing. Without her, without the lies, without the betrayal. Looking back, I realized the biggest lesson I've learned is that even when your world falls apart, you have to stand your ground. I trusted her once, believed in the vows we made, but she proved that some people are just good at hiding their true nature. I don't hold on to anger anymore, just a quiet resolve to never let anyone hurt me like that again. I've become more cautious, more aware of the red flags, and I refuse to be blindsided again. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Keep your eyes open, gather evidence, and don't be afraid to fight for yourself. It's not just about the house or the money, it's about reclaiming your dignity and your peace of mind. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's hard, but you're stronger than you think. I am living proof of that. Now I focus on rebuilding. I've started dating again, cautiously but with more wisdom. I know what to look out for now. I remind myself that not everyone is who they seem to be, and that's okay. Life goes on, and sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that teach you the most about yourself. I've lost a lot: trust, money, a marriage, but I've gained clarity, resilience, and a sense of empowerment I never knew I could have. So here's my final word. Don't let betrayal define you. Stand up, fight for what's yours, and never settle for anything less than honesty and respect. Because in the end, you're the only one responsible for your happiness. And trust me, you're worth it.